Okay, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at vectors, sort of an introduction to them, and I'll discuss the difference between distance and displacement of vectors. They'll make quite easy sense here in a short period. So like for instance, I'll just give you an idea. I'll draw a vector like this starting from here's my x-axis and my y-axis like this, and I'll just draw one from here to here like that. So that's a vector in the sense that basically it's an arrow that tells you what direction the vector is pointing and how the length of the vector, or the magnitude we say. So it has this length of 1 and it has a direction that's essentially, you could think of it as due east. So then I could draw another one that would say go from here, and maybe I was going north and I draw it up to here. Well, it's not quite north, but close. That kind of gives you an idea. So this vector is going from here to here. Or you might think of it as the way the wind is blowing. Maybe the wind is blowing from the west to the east, and say you had a little beach ball sitting here and the wind blew it over to here, and then say the wind changed directions and it came out of the south and then it blew the beach ball up to this location. Then let's say it started from over here and the wind blew it up to, wind was blowing strong enough it blew it up to this location. So each one of these has a different length, or magnitude is how we say it, and a different direction. So that's really fundamental to vectors. They have a magnitude and a direction. So we can just continue on, and let's say the wind just keeps changing directions and it blows that way and the beach ball blows up there and it goes there and it goes there and it goes there. So it's going quite a distance, right? I mean, it just keeps traveling around. The wind changes direction. Now it's blowing it to the southwest, and now it's blowing it more south, and it just keeps going around and it keeps blowing it up here, and now it blows it to the northeast, and then maybe it blows it back down here towards this location, and maybe it stops right there. So the wind was blowing that way and that way and that way, all these ways. Well, the beach ball has traveled quite a distance, right? It's had to travel along this distance, and that. All this, when you add it up together, that's quite a distance. I mean, it's kind of like if you left one city and you drove 100 miles to another city, and then you drove 300 miles to a different city, and 200 miles to a different city, and then maybe 150 miles back to your original city, or something like that. You would have driven a long distance, just like this might be like this. But however, if you look at the final displacement, and that's the difference. I'm saying distance versus displacement. Really, the end point is right there. Your vector started here and it ends up right there. So the displacement of the vector in total is just that little bit. There's really nothing to it. But the distance can be a huge amount like that. So that's what I mean by displacement versus distance. And we use vectors for a lot of reasons. One of the ways we use it is to add vectors together. So you might start, a vector here that goes to there, and you might start a vector here that goes to here, and we might add these vectors together. And the way you do it is you take the tip of this vector, or the tail, which is the back of the vector, and the head of the vector. So I'll take this exact same vector if I was going to add these vectors together, and I just kind of add it up here, and I make the same size shape vector up here as the other one below it, and then this one goes to here, and then what you end up is with a vector here in the center like this. Alright, so this vector here ends up being the addition of this vector and this vector. Alright, so you just basically put tip to tail is the tip of this vector and the tail of this vector, and it adds it together. Or you could have done it the other way around. You could take this vector and add this one to it, and that going up there, and you'd get to the same point. So that's how you could add these vectors together. And I'll cover vectors a lot more in future tutorials. Alright, well that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next lesson.